Hello, gang. How y'all doing? DJ Ultra Tom, look at you with that sub. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. How are you guys today? Happy Monday. Happy beginning of the year. It's everybody's first work day in the States. Well, most of us, not everybody. There was a time I worked at studios where that did not happen. We got another couple of days, I think. Are you pimp? Awesome. Love to hear it. Pimp is where it's at. We are starting a sexy new painting today, so I am checking out potential inspiring images. I'm thinking, so I've got this thing. I don't know who the artist is, but I always love that painting or drawing. Just scrolling really quickly through images. Just letting flashes go past and things that kind of stand out in my brain. I let it hang out for a second. It's not to say that any of these things specifically get painted. I've done this for a couple of our paintings in the past, and the things didn't really come out like that at all. They didn't come out looking like what was inspiring it. Just little tiny tidbits. Okay, there's some things I can't show because we're rated for kids. Kids shouldn't be watching this. All right. Let's move my mic. Can you hear me all right? Too loud, too quiet? Let me know. Just finished the commission, sent it off to final, so let's hope it gets approved. Hell yeah. Congrats. Skulls and curves. It's a win-win. Hey, Tom? I approve. That's a combination. Some fan art. Might get traction online and get more eyes on the stream. I actually despise fan art. You heard it here first. Actually, I've said this numerous times. I do not enjoy making fan art. I will sometimes do redesigns. I also don't like doing, what's that, sort of memorial art. I just don't feel good about it. I don't feel that great about fan art either. It's just a personal hang up. I just like making new things. I like trying to challenge myself with new stuff. So usually if it's going to be fan art, it's a redesign of fan art. And I know that totally kills the algorithm. And that's part of why I am a terrible non-success at just about everything social media as an artist. But it is what it is, you know. It's just how I roll. Scanboy thinks it's theft. I don't know about theft. I just think that it's like, I am a cynical person in some ways. Like I can view things very cynically. So then, if the idea is gaming an algorithm and understanding, oh, well, this is the kind of thing that's going to get the attention that I want, then that's not what I want to do. And I also hate the popular music because that's the way I am in some ways. Hey, Cypher. Fair enough. Maybe insincere. Yeah, I think probably more in that vein. Insincere. There is an insincerity, in my opinion, to it. It's just capitalizing on somebody else's stuff. And it also, but I get it at the same time. I mean, I've worked tables at Comic-Con before and, had original content. And people don't care. They don't care. If they don't recognize it, they're not interested. So I get it very much so, especially if you're starting out. But I feel like I've been working in this long enough. I don't need to prove that I can do Batman, And if you want attention, fucking do Batman characters. Holy crap. That will get it for you. So, I don't know. Boobies. Also, boobies are good. I like authenticity. Yeah, I do. I like authenticity. I like originality. I like to support that sort of thing. So I also, with my likes and with my time and with my comments, I go out of my way to try and support people that are doing original content because I want to see new stuff. I want to. That's also why I want to teach and help people out, is because I want to help them realize their visions for whatever it is that they're working on. I don't want to be contributing to the umpteenth Batman or Harley Quinn. I don't need to see it anymore. I'm over it. That said, every now and then I do see some original take on it that just tickles, and that's cool. But it's pretty rare, to be honest. Maybe it's cynicism. I don't know. You know, when people do it for actors who just died. Yeah, the memorial art. Yeah, I have a hard time with that. I have done one. I did it for Princess Leia. We actually did that. We finished it here on the stream, but that was like a year after Carrie Fisher died. So I didn't feel like I was abusing the algorithm. It was a painting. I'd actually started it because that was one where I had really strong feelings about it. And I know some people are doing it. Again, I know I'm cynical. But I had strong feelings about it because I cared about the character and all that stuff. So I had started it, but I abandoned it, just following my standard cynicism at the time. It is what it is. I don't want anybody to feel bad about making that stuff. It's just not for me. The boob painters who do comic book characters drive you up the wall. Yeah. Where they're just doing like erotic versions of them. Yeah. Same kind of thing. But I mean, it's hugely popular, and that's honestly that's where you're going to get the massive bucks. Prime example, check out Sakimi-chan on Patreon, man. She's got thousands of supporters, and the vast majority of her work is, boo beat up characters that everybody knows and loves. It's a formula and it works. So that's that. I just choose not to support it myself. I want to see your fresh ideas. You think it's more like appreciating someone else's art for you? Like if someone did fan art of yours, you'd feel super honored. Yeah, and I mean, I've had fan art done of my stuff, and it does. I mean, it's cool, but I think it's when it's fan art that's done of things that are already ultra popular that I tend to have more of an issue with it. Like if you're doing fan art of like El Zombo, cool. Like I don't see a ton of fan art of that. If you're doing fan art of I don't know, some really obscure anime, dude, fine. I'm not going to make a big fuss out of it. It's just, I don't do that much. It's very rare. And if I do, I try to do a redesign. It's just my MO. That's why I'm basically just explaining why you don't see that much from me, even though it does work on the algorithm. I remember there was a period I tried to do it. I was doing these little lunch break sketches when I was working at Sony, and I did like maybe a half dozen sort of character redesigns, sort of hinting at existing characters and things, and it just was like, why am I spending my time doing this? I'd much rather make something weird and new. You could do fan art of the cottage cheese monster. Yeah. You did have a well-known artist copy your painting cipher. That's rough. They never mentioned you. See, that's super not cool. You were working on a Whitney Houston remix back in the day, and then she died, and you shelved the remix because you didn't want to be seen as hopping on a bandwagon for doing a tribute. Yeah, I mean, I think Tom, we're pretty similar in that respect. Like, there's, you can pay your respect to an artist that you love, but then there's that timeliness thing that kind of makes it weird. Dan Rob, howdy, welcome. Devil's Nemesis, hi. Yeah, there's no harm in doing whatever tickles you, and I want to emphasize that just because it's not for me doesn't mean that you should feel any way about doing it. If you like doing fan art, fucking rock it, go do it, and I may even favorite some of it because sometimes, like I said, it does tickle. Someone sells prints of your paintings on Etsy that they repainted. Oh, that's not cool. Wow, that's awful. I have had that happen, but it was like Chinese companies, Chinese printers that do prints of your actual work and sell it as original stuff on T-shirts and things like that. That's happened to me a couple times. Yeah, anyway, I don't know what I was doing with that. I was just sketching while doing my fun scree on fan art. Let's do another vertical. I think I like the idea of that. That osprey, I think it was. It's diving. Really beautiful anatomy. Yeah. It's easy to do this when you've just got kind of like a really rough sketch. You can do lots of transformations and it doesn't really hurt anything too much. Shrink the whole thing. I like, if you're going to paint a figure with wings, they have to be, to me, anatomically sound. Like, they've got to be big enough that this creature can fly. I just like a little bit of logic in my fantasy paintings. I'm changing the angle of this bit of anatomy, so that should be interesting. You had trying to do that too? Impossible to shut it down? Yeah, it is. Yeah, you all should definitely give Cypher a follow. I like their artwork. Cool, like ethereal, surreal stuff. Yeah, I love the softness. Adelheid, hi, welcome. You have photography sitting around on Instagram? That's pretty cool. So this time I'm starting out in a non-traditional way for me. I tend to usually start out with just doing like shapes with paint, like big, bold silhouette style painting. But this time we're actually starting with the drawing. So I'm enjoying this little change of pace, something different. I would like to get the leather coat in there, but honestly, there's really no way to do a leather coat with this kind of wings coming out of the back. You know, extra shoulder blades and limbs just makes it tough. So I'll try and find some other way to maybe get some leather in here, but it's not going to be as a jacket. And it seems like every country's kind of messed up this vaccine and dealing with the plague in some way or another. It's just like kind of this universal shite. It's a starting point. All right, let's turn this down. Let's see what we come up with. Multiply. Let's do kind of a fill. It's going to be tough to remember that the feathers need to go inwards actually to have this make sense. How do I want to do this booty? Is this going to be an arched back or a tucked back? Decisions, gang. I'm telling you. Struggling. Let's see what an arched back does. While I may be too much of a purist for fan art, I'm certainly not one for avoiding sex. Make it sexy. Okay. Let's lower that a touch more. Let's do another layer. Let's get back in a little bit tighter line work. Smaller brush. Okay, so there's this kind of just double checking the anatomy on this bird here. There's this pinch from the bird trapezius, which is really nice. There's going to be a pinch from the actual trapezius too on top of that. I'm going to double that up. I like to, anytime I'm doing something with 6 limbs, I try to accurately portray the limbs. Okay, I see what I did wrong here. Okay. So, because that is the elbow, you can't have this upward jut, really. I can get the same effect. If I like that shape, I can get the same effect just by kind of bending things a little. But I can't create a whole new joint, or I don't want to create a whole new joint. Kind of amazing T of the little chicken wings here, little buffalo wings. I'm gonna hint at the curvature and the length of the forearm of this thing, because this is the wrist, this is the elbow, right? So just like your arm has like a kind of a little curve to it, I'm gonna try to do that with and hint at that with this anatomy here, even though it's in very deep foreshortened perspective. Feather placement, all that stuff. This isn't anything I've fully memorized. It's the reference I've got right here. I do know the essential sort of rhythms of the feathers and how they fold and how they connect roughly to the underlying anatomy. And that makes it really easy to analyze the reference and use the reference more handily. So learning that stuff, I'm definitely not going to rule out. I think this might be slimmer here. If you all are painting alongside, let me know what you're painting. I'm always curious. You're not used to me sketching like this? Yeah. This is not my typical way of doing it, but it works. I just always try to show different ways of doing things so that you guys can see that there's not any like be and end all way. You can develop your own way of getting things done. It's just the rules of light that you have to follow. The rules of design that you need to follow, or at least master, so that when you break it with good reason to great effect. Okay, let's go back to our top layer. Let's figure out this figure. I'm going to draw through it. Oops. Doing a study to follow John Park style. Awesome. John Park is a very nice guy. I like him a lot. I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with this neck, which means that this head is gonna probably really have some pretty drastic changes done to it in order to get it to work. Probably gonna have to extend the rib cage. Yeah. Need our sacral triangle, super important. So we're going to see this bend a little bit differently. We're going to tuck the legs up underneath more sideways. And we're going to push this more straight out. Notice I made this little triangle right here. This little triangle is going to be a little spot where the ground will separate from the figure and create a little focal point. But it's at a sexy spot. And this is a trick, a really common cheesecake trick to create a focal point, usually a contrasting one, that will draw your attention to the cheesecakey area without it being, you know, full on porno. I think I wanted to do the front leg needed to come forward a little bit. Yeah, I think this is the way it's gonna go. And then this back leg's gonna go back. Kind of give me this little scissor effect here. It's gonna be an arrow pointing back up towards the body. Got to figure out how this head is going to attach. I don't know what we'll do with the head. Maybe I can make it monstrous or something. Okay, it's a little bit more refined than my previous sketch, but we'll do the same thing. We'll turn it down. All right, let's clean up our silhouette to match. Cheesecake porn. Mm-hmm. Alright, let's turn off the lines because I think that the lines are breaking the anatomy a little bit, so we can do another pass and clean it up yet again. I think this time we're just going to focus on the body because I don't like how the body turned out. I like the silhouette shapes, I just don't like the anatomy that I've drawn. I don't think it's accurate. I'm making my job easier. I'm using the same gray that I used to do this, the silhouette fill. I'm using that same color as my line color, but I'm just setting the line layers to multiply so that they sit on top happily. Okay, let's simplify this further. Okay, so if it's really thin rib cage. So if that's the rib cage size, that's part of the problem there. The head is way too small. Action lines, gotta have those. In some ways, I think the action line's even more important when you have really fantastical characters, because it's one of those things that can make it feel more realistic. I think actually we might have to go anti-cheesecake on this one and not put the butt out. It's going to have to be a little bit more tucked forward. Not to say you can't get really great contours without seeing standard cheesecakey bits. I think tucking that hip in and really jutting out that the head of the femur up there might be an interesting shape choice for the lighting. Yeah, I can tell already. The rhythm of this is much cleaner. It reads better. hips in the wrong spot, but that's okay. Cheesecake was nice. You get too precious. The booty has its place and it has its time. I could definitely get the booty in there, but it would mean changing the overall pose a little more. And what I was digging was the silhouette. So I'm playing, really, even though I am working in line right now, ironically, I am still really working in silhouette and thinking about the overall shape of these things. And you'll see once we cut out the booty shape and start and fill in the new shape, you'll see what I mean, that the rhythm will read much better, I think. This still feels okay to me, weirdly. Just a slight swell to the breast for this harpy critter. Okay, let's go back to our silhouette. Let's try again. So here's the question. Was my head placement, though wrong, in the right spot originally? Or is this going to be a little bit better? I think that reads pretty well. I think the other thing we're going to have to do is change this. Let's cut out this part and this part. Yeah. Yeah, there's some good positive and negative shapes there. Wrap around. There's potential here. Now another question: do we need the whole wings? I don't know. Dan Rob asks, "Hey Z, what are your thoughts on studies? Is using ref for your painting enough? Should you do separate studies every day? Studies is warm before painting." Um, if you're not familiar with the visual vocabulary of whatever it is you're working on, then yeah, you should absolutely be doing studies. I've covered this before in classes and in the stream, but it always bears repeating, even for myself. When you're going to come up with an illustration, let's say, okay, so we've come up with a sketch idea for what we're going to do here. The best way to do this, if I really wanted to do this right, would be to stop here, now that I've got a sketch, to try and find a reference that matches or roughly matches what I'm after here. Birds from reality, always photos, never use other illustrations or concept art for reference studies. Take photos of birds in diving patterns, look at feathers, look at lighting, examine different lighting scenarios, and do studies of every single element. Do studies of dancers doing this pose. Try to analyze the anatomy. I mean, you can find reference for every element of this thing. It may not be in the exact arrangement that you see here, but that's not necessary. What you need to do is learn the three-dimensional. You need to learn the logic of light and color, and then you can examine something and reapply it in a three-dimensional way to a different position of that same thing. So it's one of the most useful things that I realized when I was first coming up was that you're never, very rarely ever going to find reference that fits exactly what you're after. But there's tons of stuff out there, but you need to be able to extrapolate it and remap it in 3D in your head. You need to be able to kind of sculpt it in your head and move things around, move light sources around, just like you would do in a 3D program. And that ability to visualize in 3 dimensions like that can make your job much, much easier, especially when it comes to ensuring that you've got reference for everything. So, short answer is you should absolutely be doing studies at every stage. The reference is just in support of those studies, because what the studies are doing, god damn it, will you just goddamn copy this thing? Ooh, that makes me mad. You should have you should be doing the studies in order to build your visual vocabulary, and then you have the references back up when you're on the spot, and you need to double check like little smaller details, specific changes in color, lighting, material reference. Usually when I'm doing like a full illustration, I will have reference that's not necessarily exactly what you see, in the end, but I'll have reference for the lighting scenario. I'll have reference for specific materials and how light behaves with those materials. I'll have reference with specific details. If there is something specific to the lighting scenario, let's say I've got like noonday or late afternoon in a desert church, and the colors and bounced lights and the cast shadows that I see from that, I want to be able to map that onto a figure that's maybe standing in a doorway in one of the in a desert church, right? Okay, so then it might be a good idea to shoot my own ref or build a little maquette or do it in 3D just so I can see how cast shadows are cast on something. But also over time with studying perspective, you're going to learn how to do cast shadows, actually map out cast shadows according to the light and how it should behave. So there's this mix between the guest perspective and understanding these elements and then also having the reference. I have been doing perspective and guest perspective for so long that I can fake fairly convincingly cast shadows over complex forms, but that's not to say that it's something you should avoid doing. So finding the reference, getting the backup, all of that stuff. Again, you're never going to find everything you need. So you got to fill as many holes as possible, ha, pun intended, in order to pull off your final illustration. And just trust that you'll get it there. So by losing all of that end detail, this really overly simplifies these wings at the top. So I'm going to have to find ways, probably little loose feathers or maybe even actual feathers that have fallen off or something to create visual noise up here so that this doesn't just feel like a simple triangle shape. Possible that we would just see only the underside of this. Maybe that's what we need to do here so that it doesn't feel so uniform. Let's go with that for now. Okay, well, let's figure out a background real quick. It's going to be a simple background after doing a couple of complex ones with the last few, or last couple. We did Snaky Boy and the Demon in the Forest. So a fun little simple background, like just a little sky. Might be nice. Nice little break for old Izzy. I'm getting old. I'll be 41 this year, gang. Ancient. I'm establishing really strong diagonals with this figure, so I'm just following them. I think I might transform it a little bit to get... Joker, hey, what's up? You've been slowly consuming the content you got from the Gumroad? That's great. You walk away with new tidbits every time? Awesome. And yeah, definitely go back and check them out again and again, because I really wish that I'd recorded my lessons when I was in school, because I know that there's tons of stuff that I missed or that would have made my job easier, but I was just so overwhelmed at the time with all that information. So having it in video format's pretty great. Baby, you're still playing catch up. We'll all get there in the end. I was at the store today, all masked up, and I had to get some more baking goods and things like that from keto cakes. And I bought a new vanilla extract that was called Cookie Vanilla. And I accidentally put it in my coffee, so now my coffee tastes like cookies. It's so weird. I'm not sure if I like it or not. It's a distinct taste. Cookie Nilla. Oh shit. You may be wondering why I go through the bother of putting in brush strokes just to like soften it up with the smudge tool right after. And the reason I'm doing this is I am trying to cajole out interesting little bits of visual noise and structure without it being an overwhelming addition to the painting. Like what I'm doing right now, this is already overwhelming. It's too overly specific, the shapes, the little textures. I want to hint at it without it being just this really strong brush stroke. It kind of kills the overly digital feel, which is ideal for me. I like to have it look questionable. Like, was this done on a computer? Just to make people mad, you know, because they're like, I want the original. Nope. So I've heard about that new In that same vein, kind of on that topic, the new format, like Beeple, what's his name? Beeple, Mr. Beeple, sold a bunch of original digital art, and it's using blockchain in order to authenticate. And he made millions off of that, or several hundred thousands off of a collection that he did of digital art. But now, because it's held in blockchain, it actually has true value. Kind of amazing. It would be so cool to get into that, but God, it just sounds so exhausting to try and set up. But I like money. What, Tom? The cookie coffee sounds delicious. I can't imagine you'd like it. I know you prefer just straight black coffee. It's interesting. I don't hate it. It's just weird. A little bit odd, you know? Okay, I've been noodling this background probably long enough. Let's get a couple more little shapes and strokes in. All right, it's good enough for now. Let's go ahead and get started on our figure. We know that we can get rid of the body from this one completely now. So we're just gonna get rid of all that noise. Boop, gone. And then the other thing that we can do to get rid of noise is just clip all of that to our under silhouette. All right, so we have line work, we have kind of a rough silhouette. Let's go ahead and pick out some lighting. $3.5 million on Beeple, yeah. Beeple got super rich like overnight. Oh, because of the beatus? Well, the cool thing is a vanilla extract has no sugar in it. It's only alcohol, which is not sugar. Your body doesn't process it the same way. Although I know you have issues with some alcohol. I don't know. It's super tiny amounts though. It's not like it's vodka or anything. I think the alcohol just does like a, what do you call it? Not emulsification, but keeps it suspended in the solution so that it doesn't settle so easily. Coffee milkshakes they are the best. All right, so real quick, let us figure out some lighting here. What are we gonna do? Let's grab that color, let's darken it up, let's warm it up. Works a little bit more in the reds side. Okay, let's put it underneath our... Okay, so I know that I need to really define this divot here. When you're getting started on the painting, digital or traditional, big brush to start. Big. Doesn't have to be pretty. You can make things pretty later. What you need to be doing now is making bold decisions about your values. Big, bold, simple shapes. Just start carving it up and defining things. So just by a few strokes, I'm outlining where my light source is now coming from. It didn't take much to do it. Can even use a smudge brush to soften some of those edges a little bit more. I know there's going to be some interesting challenges here in the shelf of that bone. You have bad reactions to the sugar alcohols? I don't think it's sugar alcohol. I think it's alcohol, not erythritol. Another noob question, is the keying the field Gumroad where you go into value key and all that? I purchased it, but was waiting to get to it, but you've been curious about breaking the value key. Is it covered in that? Yes. Keying the field is the core concept underlying value key and value relationships. It's super important. I think that's why it's lesson 3 or maybe 4. Because even when you get into materials will be heavily dictated by the value key. The value key is basically the gamut of values that you have available to you in the overall image, then in certain sections of the image, and then certain sections of the lit part of those sections, and then the shadow sections of those sections. And then it cuts down smaller and smaller in this amazing pyramid scheme of pain and suffering, which is a super tight value key. But a super tight value key is, in all honesty, the best way to attain control in your painting and ensure that you get something that makes sense and follows a lighting scenario. So, for those of you that are just getting into the logic of light and color with me, I very much recommend watching the videos in order up until maybe the mid to late 20s of the episodes. Then you can sort of do it a little bit more a la carte according to your needs. But there are essential tidbits of knowledge that everything is built on. And those first few episodes are vitally important in understanding them. That's a great question. Thank you. Okay, so let's pick out some locals. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to multiply 2, and I'm going to lower the opacity a touch. We're going to change the color to something significantly warmer. Oops. There we go. So we can kind of mimic what we had a moment ago. But the reason I want to do this is because I want to paint underneath. We're going to lock the pixels like we talked about on Saturday on the silhouette layer. And now I'm just going to paint in some lights just to kind of have something to play against. I'm basically just trying to figure out where my brightest brights are going to be, where I'm going to have some interesting contrasts. I think this is going to be an important one. Whoops. This is going to be an important one, the shoulder section here, where it's not covered by the shadow. The head, of course. Maybe just the breadth of the hip right there Top of the hand, and I think just this little bit of the talon feet, whatever they're gonna be. I have not decided. Okay, we've got to start. Let's pick a local color. Let's go ahead and do a colorized layer on top of everything, because I'm lazy as fuck. I'm automatically adding in a cool to represent my sky fill. Okay, so I've got some pretty good notes going on. Let's lower the opacity even further on our line work, because now we're going to start getting into painting a little bit. So by doing all the work with the values and the colors to begin with, what I'm trying to do is minimize the amount of work that I need to do in terms of color picking, ensuring that I'm in the right value key for an area. By handling that stuff early on, I get to be a little bit more sketchy while simultaneously being accurate with the relative colors and values that are there. It's just that prepping thing. It's like painting a room in your house. You know, it's putting down the tape, doing all that extra work in the beginning to make things more fun and fast at the end. You want to set the table up so that you're primed for a win, basically. can always go in and define lines, change relative values, but this is almost like an underpainting, you know? I can already tell that I'm going to need to beef up that back, beef up the back a lot more in order to accommodate this anatomy. That's all right. We will get to it. Okay, let's make a new layer. I have it on separate, so it's not being clipped. And now we're going to actually try and work on this anatomy so it makes a little more sense. So if we're going to lengthen the torso pretty significantly, that means we got to also lengthen the legs, I think. Thanks, Cypher. Hopefully you can see how much this is like sculpting. It's just like adding and removing shapes in sort of a quasi three-dimensional fashion. All with the goal of getting the forms to read in 3 dimensions. This needs to be significantly darker. Oh, I see why that's not working. I think we're gonna have to change this shape even more. Something more like that. Okay. So now this is a single layer. Turn off the underlying layer so we can actually see our changes. We're doing on time. Haven't checked that in a while. Okay, hour and a half. That's a good start. Yeah, hopefully you guys can see what I mean when I say when I start with line, I go much slower. Calendar. Welcome, hi. Last stream you couldn't type, that's no good. Sorry to hear that. Hopefully that was not the stream that caused it, but hard to say. Gets goofy sometimes. Oops. I'm just drawing on top, trying to get everything figured out. I love the head feathers on those harpies, the harpy birds. Kind of cool little crown shape. And we're going to use them to simultaneously cover up my very sketchy, not so logical neck. 'Cause why not? I like that part, so I want that part to be seen. The rest don't matter so much. What if it came from the brows themselves? Ooh, that's something. I'm definitely kind of thinking a little bit more, you know, the storyteller, Jim Henson style monster. I've always been in love with that kind of design. Not necessarily the Froud stuff, although I do love Froud, but there was this kind of alien familiarity to the stuff from the storyteller. Even the designs, I don't know if it was Tippett or I don't know who did it, but the designs from Legend, where there was a lived-in aspect to them, but they definitely felt fanciful and dangerous, if that makes sense. That same feeling, you know, like Willow, there's a fanciful danger to the designs. I love these things because they were influences on me when I was a kid. But whatever influences you, you should allow to guide you with your designs. I think it's been in the case of style, like design styles like those of kind of the mid 80s fantasy, high fantasy stuff. Like with the advent of Lord of the Rings and things like that, there was like this new postmodern style. And I think it's okay now for this stuff to kind of come back a little bit. And we've seen it to some degree. You know, we've got your Turbo Kids and what was that short that they made into a full-length movie with it was basically just synthwave made real. It was awesome. Turbo Kid's great though if you haven't seen it. I love Turbo Kid. Low budge. Michael Ironside sitting in a chair all the time because he's tired. But it was great. Zero regrets. We might just leave the face, really simple. Yeah, Muppets. Well, not exactly the Muppets, but the Muppets creator, the studio or the workshop, whatever they like to be called, had done lots of stuff, lots more than Muppets. They contributed to several shows. There were some originals like Storyteller, which I believe was Jim Henson's Storyteller. But they've done lots of puppet stuff. Let's grab this. Gonna make a mask and just paint this stuff out. Uh-oh. That didn't work. Why are you not working? Oh, that's why. I had it on another layer. Hey, Kova, hey, stop. Yeah, I don't care. Dummy. Sitting there tearing yourself up. This will be interesting because this is a very similar shape to like what's going on in the wing. This kind of divot. Thanks, Cypher. It's still got a lot of evolution to go because what I'm doing that's different this time is I'm figuring out so much while actually painting instead of doing the sort of classic concept art build-up system, which is admittedly it's much easier to do the design in pieces. So what we're doing is we're building everything all at once, and it's a challenge. But also, what happens is you end up getting a little bit more of a John Foster look out of it, where it's going to be you're going to see some of the underlying sketchiness, the exploration. It has value for sure. It'll get there, slow but sure. But thanks. Crazy how I haven't gotten rendering into the wings. Yeah. Well, there's still a lot to do there too. Yeah, to get that paint look, you want to build it up like you would a traditional painting. So building up the underpainting, and by doing it in this order, it's going to give it a much more traditional look by the time you're done. That said, that is not easy. Sometimes it's very difficult. God damn it. Do I have a fine arts background, or you chase that traditional look? Chase. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand. You chase that traditional look. That part I don't understand, but otherwise I do. I did have a traditional training, so I learned to paint with oil paints and acrylics and things like that. Wow. Oh, okay. I didn't think it was that dark. What I'm trying to do here is smooth out the transitions a little bit. I got a little too chonky. It happens sometimes, especially with my paintings. I get a little overzealous with the anatomy. Bahava, to smooth the transition, am I using a brush or a blur tool? I am using mostly a blur tool to do to soften edges, but I'm also painting using color variances in order to increase the softness of that transition, like here, for instance. This is a paintbrush to do that. And then if I want to sub-soften, then I'll switch to the blur tool like you just saw. So the answer is both. Knock yourself out, calendar. What are you curious about that is unart related? I lived on a fishing boat? No, I lived on a sailboat. I did fish off of it, as in attempted to catch fish, the verb. I never caught anything but pufferfish, though. I am a terrible, terrible fisherman. Like, really laughably bad at fishing. I did do a little bit of fishing, like not commercial, but tournament fishing on a friend's boat, where I did the reeling on for big fish, like marlin, mahi mahi, tuna, things like that, and I fished for those. But the captain was doing all of the baiting and like picking out where to go. Like that's the real art of fishing. It's not the actual fighting the fish. They have the dumbest guy do that. So I've done that part. Lots of seaweed. Catch that too. So were I to start this from scratch, on my own, this would be a part where I would stop and I would look up anatomy, and I think I would look up like curling or bowling or something like that, because this is a pose that I've seen in that kind of activity. You don't know why it calls to you those deep sea fishing jobs, and you have a love-hate relationship with fish. Your great grandparents moving continents in a ship, still in your DNA. I think all of us have kind of a relationship with the sea on some level. Um, like kind of losing that is to me the unnatural part. But that said, life at sea is not easy, and it's been very heavily romanticized. So it's one of those things I say, be careful if you're going to go that route. we're going to go back to this and erase this out. Okay, let's make a new group. I'm going to copy this one again so we can have the evolution saved. I'm going to merge it down again. 2 a.m. Ah, well, thanks for hanging so long, Adelheid. That's awful sweet of you. Have a good night. Rest up. We'll catch you next time. And don't forget that weekends we have our Euro East Side show. So that might be a little bit better for your bedtime. But thanks. I really appreciate that support. Rest up, and we'll catch you next time. Actually, it is getting pretty late on the stream. I'd say we got let's do another 15 minutes, and then we'll call it for this session, and we'll come back to this. We'll see how I'm feeling about it the next time. So far, I'm digging the head and the wings. I'm not loving the human parts of it. I might go more monstrous when we come back to this. Got coffee in my beard. Yeah, I'm definitely not loving this part. We could go back to the booty. I don't know. We can change where the hip bisects. It could be just that split is in a weird spot, which happens. I mean, it's really hard to map out really tight pinches and joints without reference. It's just one of those things. It's really tough to do. And it takes a lot of finessing if you don't have that rough. We did make the legs super long for a human. But we're definitely not painting a human, obviously. You always look up to the notes for next time. Oh, nice. Yeah, it's a good. I think giving yourself notes is a great way to manage your expectations for what's going to happen in the next session. Yeah. Machines for more. Welcome. Really like the cools I've got going on in the wings. Might be nice to see some of these variations in feather color and the other feathers on her body and head. Probably. We will get there. We've definitely got at least one more session with this character. We'll push definitely more in the sky fill, doing some color variations like you were talking about. Notes for next session. Yeah, we'll see what happens when the Photoshop wizardry begins. Yeah, this is a couple of hours in. Jumping ahead, but all in the name of notes currently. So we'll probably do hints of, that's what I'm trying to figure out right now, is if it's worthwhile to do hints of a rim light on the far side for the next session. It might be too comic booky for the overall effect that I've got in the painting so far, but it's worth kind of exploring just to see. We'll add it now and kind of assess on Wednesday. Yeah, I think it's a good stopping point for the moment. And we got into some good time painting today. I think this will be a quick one since it's just a figure in a field, so we'll probably finish in the next session instead of the usual 3 for a full illustration. Hopefully you all enjoyed hanging out and doing some sketching with me. I got to stretch my hands out there a little. Ooh, old mania right now. Oh, ow. Anyway, gang, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you. We stream on Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're doing Saturdays, usually around noon Pacific Standard Time. If you'd like to see some of the other paintings that I've done in the past, check out the YouTube at youtube.com/Izzy Medrano. There's also, you can also follow me at the Izzy Medrano on Insta and Izzy Medrano on Twitter. You're going to find the finished work and process drawings, things like that there. I am rounding out the last stages right now of planning out the new updated version of Patreon. If you are a painter and you're interested in getting crits and things like that, dip into our Discord, link below, so that you can join that conversation and get some input on what you'd like to see from classes or at least not classes, but crit sessions from me in the future for Patreon. So anyway, I hope that was good times, and we'll see you next time. Until then, as always, paint smart, paint sexy. I'm Izzy, a professional writer, concept artist, and illustrator. I've taught painting for a dozen years or so, on and offline. Many of your favorite illustrators and designers have studied with me or under me and have gone on to teach in their own right. You're here because, like they did, you want to learn to paint realistically for illustration or concept art. Well, worry not. You're in the right place. Grab a seat. I want you to join me as I explain all the aspects of image making in extremely digestible and clear monthly lessons. Not through the lens of silly how to paint hair or eye demos. That shit is carnival tricks. And you're not really learning anything except an exact way to render one thing in one manner. This is painting mysticism at its worst. Watching these kinds of exploitative lessons won't help you level up with your understanding. Sure, now you can paint sparkly hair, but what if you want to paint a dragon, or figure out how to render a sea of fire, or depict a one-eyed transgender space marine dying in the vacuum of space? Painting and image making are tools of communication, and can be learned by anyone willing to put in some time. Like grammar is for language, light, color, and form literally follow a formula. Painting well is not a matter of chicken bones, zombie crackers, and the ever-dismissive concept of talent. Learning with my series, Izzy's Logic of Light and Color, will give you the tools and understanding so you can analyze light and form in reality and bring it to life in your work. Using this simple system I have distilled will help you harness your art to share your ideas as you've always intended. When we are children,
We all draw in symbols. Symbols for our house, our hands, the sun, the grass, our pet lobster. As we grow into artists, we must learn to throw away symbols and begin to draw and paint what it is we actually see. And as we grow further, we learn to paint beyond what we see and what is actually there. Until finally we move beyond this and learn to trim away what is actually there so we voice only what we want. With me, you're going to have